Hello everyone. I hope this message finds you fit and fine. My name is Shashank Tyagi and I welcome you all to this discussion in our international relations series where topic is factors affecting India's foreign policy. This topic is like foundation to other topics when we are going to discuss India's bilateral relations. Now to simplify this, let's start with the basics. What is foreign policy? To be direct, we can say the policy which is having some principles, some ground rules on which a nation conducts its relationship with other nations. Now the question is, why we need to have good relations with other nations? If you have similar kind of questions in mind, then ask yourself, why you need relations in your life? Why you need relations in your life? So some of you might think, we need relations for economic security. We need relations for emotional stability. It means security, well-being are some important points which are coming into your mind when we are talking about importance of relations in your life with others. Similarly, for a nation, it is important to have good conduct with other nations, a strategic relation with other nations for our own security, for our own economic well-being. Yes. Traditionally, foreign policy has been considered as a field of elite class. But that's not true. Because you cannot talk about foreign policy without considering ground reality in a society. The society, the economic status of the people, the challenges people face in day-to-day life has a lot to do with the foreign policy of that particular nation. So how can we say that this foreign policy, this international relations as a domain is a domain of privileged few? No, that's not true. Because these policies impact life of common men. And that's why a common man should have stake in foreign policy. Now let's start this discussion. So there are 5 important factors which are impacting India's foreign policy, starting with geography. Your location matters in international relations because your location will decide your trade routes. Your location will decide what are the concerns which you are going to have in future or in present. Your geography also includes the topography. What kind of region you are living in? Is it mountainous, plateau, plain? How fertile it is? Strategic culture. It is said that history has an influence on foreign policy. History is not a determinant. You can know, it means whatever our history was, it is having impact on our foreign policy, but it cannot put a full stop. We have n number of ways, but it becomes important to understand strategic culture, how foreign policy has been conducted in past, what philosophies have been shaping India's posture in the world. We are going to understand with the timeline India's requirement and goals. As I told you, why you have relations. So first thing comes into your mind is, what our requirements are. So you want to achieve certain goal, you want to have some requirement fulfilled. Similarly, India's requirement have been changing with time. That's how our relations have been shifting. You can take example, India's relationship with USSR in 1950s, right? Then Russia after 1991. Do you think we have same kind of relations with Russia now? No, they have shifted. Why? Because our requirements have shifted, our goals have shifted. In 1920s, we have seen that our relation with USA was not that smooth. But as of now, India and for Russia, for USA as well, this is a strategic partnership. Why? Requirement goal. So can we categorize some common goals which we can actually understand these things remain same? That is the objective we need to understand. Goal and regional challenges, global and regional challenges. The challenges which were there in this world in 19th century are not same as in 20th century. Don't you think climate change, terrorism, fundamentalism, these global challenges are making nations converge on certain issues? Certain nations which were not that much closer are coming closer to handle these issues, right? So understanding the kind of global challenges will help you understand, oh, what kind of foreign policy India should adopt now, right? For example, COVID is a global issue and it needs global response, right? Issues and resources. My friends, your capability will decide the table on which you will be allowed to sit. That is why every nation should aspire to increase its capability. That's how you gain respect in international politics. Natural resources you cannot choose. These are given to you by nature. But by right policies, you can change your future, like Singapore has done, like South Korea has done, like Japan has done, right? Now, let's talk about India's geography and how it has been shaping India's foreign policy. Coming to this popular word, Hindustan. So this word is connected to the geography of India. Because Hindu as a word is not present in Vedas. This word emerged as a geographical expression by the invaders of north who were coming into India from northwest. Because this is Indus, Sindhu. So in Farsi, you say ha to sa. So those who were living in this area, they were considered Hindu. And the place in which these people were living was considered as Hindustan. So Hindu was a geographical expression which was later attached to Hindu as a religion with the Vedic religion, Sanatan Dharma religion, which was going on, which was present in this area. Right? Now, apart from this, we have seas to the south. India is blessed with natural barriers, and natural barriers are boon because they actually stop invasions, right? You can actually channelize your resources in other areas because nature is protecting you. So India is having seas on 3 sides. India is having a strong mountainous presence in the northern side. India is having dense forest on the eastern side. It is like nature was protecting the people living in this area. So traditionally, India saw invasions from this area, northwest area. Now, my friends, don't you think the challenges you face in your life, the ease you have in your life shapes up your responses? If you are given all the luxuries in life, you don't have any economic insecurity, you don't have any threat from the borders, then what do you think? What you are going to do? Do you think you will spend much on building defenses? Do you think you will spend much on having strategic thinking, how we need to have relations with the outside world, how we need to plan to expand into other territory? Do you think you are going to have that urge to expand into other territory? Because traditionally, areas which were having this insecurity that others can expand on them, they use this policy, let's expand on others, as a necessity to secure ourselves. But do you think the people who were living in this territory would think of such strategy? No. And this is one reason that Indian Peninsula, the rulers in Indian Peninsula, were not traditionally expansionary. India has been, living in this peaceful coexistence arena. And we have been posturing it as our moral altitude. But reality is, geography has a lot to do with it. Geography का भी इसमें एक reason है. Because if you remove, although we cannot think on these lines in international relations, but to make you understand, if you remove these natural barriers, if you make India, this area landlocked, and now you have from all the sides, you have continuous threat of invasions. What do you think would be the response of the people? Now people would actually build their bodies like Spartans used to do, because they had this continuous threat. That's why so much influence was given on every individual should have this military prowess. Right? So I hope you are now connecting with how geography actually shapes up our foreign policy. Right? Mountain ranges to the north, thick forest to the east, and desert to the west. Right? So now self-contained this region was, as I told you, self-satisfied rich civilization. सोने की चिड़िया, ऐसे ही थोड़ी ना कहा जाता था. So geography has had a lot to do with it. And as an impact, we can see never an aggressive power. This area was never an aggressive power. As I told you, there was no need, right? Because you are self-sustained. Trade and cultural contacts were strong because we had this strong trade connection here in Southeast Asia as well as in Gulf. Due to this proximity and clear lines of communication, clear lines of contact, right? Threats and invasions were faced from this northwest corner. Now, if I ask, can you just pinpoint some key features of India's foreign policy as India got independence? It means when Nehruji was leading India, then you can say, yes sir, we can say the non-violence, we can say non-alignment movement. But these things were not just invented in 1 or 2 years or 5 or 6 years, right? If Gandhiji was saying that, and Gandhiji had influence on Nehru, it had a lot to do with the geography, because these ideas were actually cooking up for long in Indian peninsula, right? Now, so 3 principal foreign policy challenges which we had is, one is this shift from traditional theory to modern theory of border boundaries. What does it mean? At this point, I clearly remember an article which was published in The Print on 17th April 2021. This article was written by Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon, former National Security Advisor. In this article, the title was Border Disputes, Let's Make Boundaries Irrelevant. So in this particular title, what he was saying that in this Indian peninsula, especially in South Asia, traditionally, we used to have the frontiers dividing different rulers. Frontiers. There is a difference between frontier and boundary. For example, there are these 2 areas. ठीक है. So 2 rulers are ruling in these areas. ठीक है. Ruler 1 and ruler 2. So now you can see there is an area as a gap here, right? This gap may be some natural barrier, for example, river, or this gap may be frontier. Frontier means no ruler would actually patrol or put a line that, oh, this is a line which divides us. The people living in this area used to mix. Means they had relations, means they used to have marriages on both sides, right? Trade links, means their economic as well as their relational aspects are connected in these areas. So these areas were like fusion between these 2 territories. And they were not given that much, you can say, importance to put a line there. The reason is they would go and patrol specifically in these areas only when they think there's some activity happening here which can directly impact the heartland of this ruler. So that is why they were having some flexible idea when it comes to frontiers. Okay, now, so these were frontiers. Okay, so this was the traditional theory of dividing the territory between two states, right? No clear boundary line. Now some of you might be thinking, oh, this is wrong actually. There should be clear boundary. But my friends, it is quite easier for you to say because you are sitting in a room watching this video, maybe living in mainland of India, right? But when you are going to understand the life and history of the people who live on these borders, although we have seen in recent past clear boundaries have been made in many areas, but I'm saying history, then you will find they were having traditional links to the people who are living on other side. Their families having relations on villages on the other side. So if you are putting a clear boundary, then you are actually changing their history. So this modern theory of boundary, which actually became popular in West and then later got imposed in South Asia by these colonial powers, have actually impacted these border villages a lot. And it is not just impacting the border villages, it is a cause of conflict in these areas. And that's why South Asia is having bloody borders, conflict. So theory against modern state defined border, right? I hope this difference is quite clear to you. Frontier, boundary, border. And I hope now you can understand the context, the point which Mr. Shiv Shankar Menon was making, that let's make boundaries irrelevant, right? If we make boundaries irrelevant, go to the traditional theory, then a lot of conflict on these borders can be resolved. Why draw lines on the line the European scholars have been guiding you, right? If our history has been different, then let's bring solution which was already there in our area. I hope many of you would agree to this point. Now, second principle, or you can say second principal foreign policy challenge is that there is lack of cooperation or no cooperation between India and its neighborhood. Especially I am pointing out Pakistan and China. That's a challenge, foreign policy challenge for India. Other is when it comes to say Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, India is having this big brother image, that India has been giving grants to Bhutan, to Nepal, a lot of subsidies, support. Now, who gives this support? Big brother gives this support. So, India consider itself as a leader of South Asia, but in recent past we have seen, with the response which we have seen in Nepal, that they don't like to be treated as younger brother. They want to be treated as equal, right? So, this is one challenge India is having, how to remain this leader of South Asia and actually avoid this image which our neighbors have been pointing out. Now, there are some positives with respect to India's geography. For example, India is strategically located, as I told you, linking this Gulf region, Persian Gulf, which is hub of oil, right? And every economy needs this oil to actually fuel this engine of growth, and we are so close to this. And personally, I feel that we have not able to actually realize it fully due to our foreign policy gaps as well as some economic policy gaps towards our domestic economic policy, and the challenges which we have obviously with our neighborhood like Pakistan. We have not tapped the potential of our strategic location until now. So India, for example, Britishers, they used to consider India as jewel of their crown, because they were able to have a hold over Asia by having control over this Indian peninsula. We are so strategically located that we can easily connect with Africa, Latin America, and here South Asia. We have sea lines of communication easily in Indian Ocean. And you know that major trade of the world passes through sea lines, right? And Indian Ocean is a crucial link for Europeans trading into South Asia. Then they cannot take India they cannot consider India out of the loop because their trade routes are so near to India. And to counter the challenges which these sea routes face, for example, piracy, narcotics, fundamentalism, terrorism, they need support of India. And this is one reason, this is one factor which is affecting India's relationship, shaping India's relationship with France. India has been cooperating with France when it comes to patrolling this Indian Ocean. So I hope now you're realizing why this discussion was important. Because international relations are not just about, recently we have seen the patrolling exercise between France and India. No, that's not international relations. This is just an event. But why this event is happening and what future events can do benefit to us, for this base understanding becomes important. Now, strategic culture. As I told you, India has been a land of spirituality with a philosophical tilt. When West was leading in material reality, we were leading in philosophical reality. And that's how non-violence, moral behavior, satyagraha. So they are rooted in ideas like teaching of Lord Buddha, Vedas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, moralistic posturing, peace and prosperity, or you can say peace, prosperity and security are connected for India. And that is why India has been consistently focusing on disarmament, especially during this Cold War era through NAM, right? Self-importance and self-righteousness. Now, India's foreign policy in the last few decades, you can point out, non-alignment, anti-colonialism. These are the, you can say, features of NAM. And these were being shaped through India's strategic culture. Although many Western scholars have pointed out that India lacks strategic culture. India do not have strategic culture. When world was divided into two blocks, India took a chance to actually sit on fence. That, we are not going to align with any other bloc. So Western scholars say, India lacks strategic culture. They should have aligned with at least one bloc. But my friends, we should consider that it is India's strategic culture which was guiding India to align with NAM. Because we were taking stand of that anti-colonialism. Because we were just got independence. And it was time to focus on internal development. It was time to actually get leadership of such nations who were recently getting independence or were waiting for independence. Right? So we could have led that movement, and that's why NAM was important at that point of time. Anti-racialism, non-violence, disarmament, peace. So these were all examples of our strategic culture. By aligning with NAM, we were able to prove that we can have strategic autonomy. We are going to decide our foreign policy, what we need, on our own terms, not the terms which one bloc is going to set. Right? So now, if we take into consideration the key, you can say, features of Nehruji's policy, so you can say negotiations, compromise and preserve, promote India's national interest. These were some, you can say, features of foreign policy during Nehru's era. Now, if we see, take into consideration Modi's time, Mr. Modi's time, so we saw that there is a shift in foreign policy. Means India has become more aggressive whenever it is needed. India has been more clearer in the demand India wants to raise when it comes to relations. So, moderate, aggressive, partnership, friendship with mutual interest. So, it is not like that we have left the strategic culture of India, which India was having. That culture is there, but with the changing time, we are becoming more pragmatic. We are enforcing our goals more clear, right? So this is a change which has been observed. Now, another point is, apart from geography, strategic culture, now, requirement and goals. As I told you, requirements are the basis of relationships. That's a hard truth, right? Now, what is the primary requirement for a nation? All of you would say, yes sir, security, integrity. Our border should be secure, right? So this is the primary goal. So whoever is going to help us in ensuring our primary goal, we are going to definitely have good relations with that. For example, India's relation with USSR during this Cold War era, don't you think it was serving the primary goal of India? Yes, because USSR was supporting us. USSR was giving us these essential weaponry which India needed. for its own security, right? USSR was the largest contributor of our defense equipments, right? So that relationship was being molded on this primary goal, right? Apart from this security, what do you need? You need economic prosperity. Because when you are going to have economic prosperity, then only your government can actually spend for the welfare of the people, for infrastructure, for other revenues. And my friends, economic prosperity is also needed for forging a strong relationship with others, because you have to spend money. You must have seen that in Modi ji going to Africa and donating 60 crore rupees to this small nation in Africa. And some of you might be thinking, yeah, घर में इतनी कमी है, 60 crore rupees वहाँ दे दिए. We are facing this pandemic. But my friends, for forging relationships, you have to spend. That's how relationships are actually, you can say, groomed. Because if we are going to help them in their time of need, in their need of time, then definitely when their markets are going to open, when they will seek partnership, they will choose us in that particular time. So long-term strategy is needed. So for that, economic prosperity is key, right? So foreign policy is integral and critical element of nation's goal and priorities. Now, as I told you, economic component. So one component is security, another component is economic, right? So these security requirement and economic requirement. Now, in economic requirement, take example. It is economic requirement of these African nations that China is actually leveraging its economic power using checkbook diplomacy. Oh, you need this much money? World Bank is not giving it to you. Take, I am giving this to you. Build your roads, and I am putting some conditions. And when you are not going to pay me back, I am going to take this particular area from you on these conditions. My companies will have these much resources in you. So China is able to use this economic power there, right? So for that, China first focused on this economic requirement to conduct its foreign policy. And on this point, you should remember this example. There was a meeting held in 1972 when USA's President Nixon visited China, and it amazed the world. Because USA, we are talking about 1972. This was a period of Cold War. And China is a communist country. And how a capitalist country's leader, USA's president, is coming on 1 week visit to China to forge relationship. And as Nixon said at that point of time, US president, that this is a historic visit which is going to alter future. And after that, we have seen the closeness between China and America, USA, right? And it proved, very successful for USA's as well as China's economic component, because USA wanted to lead multiple economies, and for that they wanted some area where cheap manufacturing can be done. Policies can be easily applied by a sign of this authoritarian government. That was the need of USA as well, and China needed it. China needed investment. Although China was moving towards a phase where China was a bit of shy, but open to experience new world, new economic policies. And in 1979, we have seen when Deng Xiaoping became the leader of China, the fortunes of China changed. And at that point of time, what Deng Xiaoping was saying, bide your time, अपने टाइम का इंतजार करो, उस टाइम तक अपने प्राइमरी गोल को फोकस करके रिलेशंस को डेवलप करो. And that's how they have bided their time. They have focused on economic development. That's why now they are able to actually transform their economic power into military power, and using this military power to increase their geopolitical stature, right? So understanding these factors becomes important now. Now it was economic component of India that India started favoring globalization, liberalization, privatization, globalization. We adopted this in 1991. And thereafter, we have seen the shift in India's relation with many European nations. But this was economic component. As India was facing balance of payment crisis in 1991, balance of payment crisis means there was shortage in foreign exchange reserve of India. And if you have to import something, you have to pay into the currency which is acceptable by the vendor. So it means it was economic necessity that India adopted globalization. Then this digital revolution which India is focusing upon, because digital revolution is the future. Economic interactions, having trade pacts, and this economic liberalization in India, I have given example in case of globalization. Now, so keeping in mind requirements and goals, so security and this economic component is primary, and thereafter we have this political stature. And some of you might be thinking, इससे काम चल रहा है, फिर political stature क्या है? My friends, nations become powerful not just by securing their border, not just by having some, you can say, good amount of natural reserves or economic prosperity. Nations become powerful when they set the table of the world according to them. When they set a system which naturally make them leader. And this has been done in history of international relations. As once there was Pax Britannica, when Britain was leading the world, because Britain ensured that the position on this chessboard are in favor of Britain, when Britain was controlling different areas of the world by using colonization, by saying it is my burden to actually make them civilized. So Britain was setting the table of the world for its own favor. And similarly done by USA after this World War II, when USA was giving huge amount of money in establishing IMF, World Bank, so that USA have control, influence over international economy. So my friends, these are primary, and then we have to set the system of the world in our favor. Now, foreign policy has to promote trade, create jobs, as this is the necessity, I've already told you, in economic component. And by this, we can actually fulfill the civilian needs. The defense technologies, promoting soft power, cultural integration. So all of these components come after that, right? They are also our goals, right? Because we have to promote tourism so that we can earn foreign exchange reserve as well as we can have people-to-people contact. When people of a nation are in favor of India, then their politicians will be influenced to have some favorable, you can say, policy tilt when they conduct or they design the policy towards India. Then global and regional challenges also shapes up international relations. For example, global power equations have been changing with time. We have seen diminishing role of US presence, withdrawal of US from Afghanistan. It has impacted the world because withdrawal has led to Taliban taking control. And Taliban taking control has impacted the interest of India. Definitely. Whoever is going to help India to offset this threat, offset the uncertainty, is going to be natural partner of India. So it means our foreign policy is being shaped by this development. Europe grappling with Brexit, because UK, a major contributor, a major player of this European Union backing out through Brexit, Britain getting exit. Now EU can actually have, you can say, trade links with India on a favorable outcomes, right? Favorable outcomes for India, because when a nation is in need at that point of time, there are more chances that you will be having some weight in your negotiation process. Rise of right-wing nationalism, it is also a factor because it may impact the domestic politics, and domestic politics may impact the foreign policy, which kind of leaders, which kind of nations you are going to align with more. And if this is becoming a threat, how you need to offset this threat, and for this offsetting this threat, how you need to align with other like-minded nations and their efforts. Immigration issue, refugee issue, right? For example, our relations with Myanmar, our relations with Bangladesh. So we have been supporting Bangladesh in tackling this Rohingya refugee issue. And we want to have, you can say, talks with Myanmar and how this refugee issue need to be resolved. Because whenever you are going to have, think of a foreign policy, you can say, stand towards Myanmar, you cannot sideline the immigration issue, refugee issue, right? Challenges through China. The world is facing this challenge because China is not there just to have some economic gains. China is there to prove that it is hegemony. Now power is being taken from USA to China. So definitely in case of USA, there is a theory of hegemonic stability theory which says that you need a world hegemon for ensuring rule-based order. So many scholars were saying it is good that USA is a hegemony. But can you say the same for China? Because China don't play by the rule. When International Court of Justice ICJ ruled against China in South China Sea, what China did? I'm not going to accept this. Do whatever you want to do. This claim, this exclusive economic zone belongs to me. So can we accept the leadership of such a nation? Obviously no. And that is why it becomes important for India's foreign policy that we should keep Indo-Pacific region in focus. That we should have closeness with Australia, Japan, USA when they are planning to counter China's expansion. Don't you think this global factor, this regional challenge has actually deciding our foreign policy? Right? Russia seeks to regain Soviet Union, as we are observing what is happening on Ukrainian borders. So it makes that India should have, you can say, clear policy in mind where India should stand. India should oppose Russia. If India opposes Russia, what is going to happen with the interest India is having with Russia? How India need to strike a balance between Russia and USA. Terrorism. Earlier it was considered that terrorism is a challenge which South Asian nations face. But now, after this attack on World Trade Center, Osama bin Laden, now European nations were saying, oh, India, you were telling us that terrorism is a major global issue. Now let's cooperate. Right? So we have global efforts on terrorism. And India has been partnering in various regional organizations and putting this agenda, terrorism there. For example, FATF, what India was saying, that this Pakistan is actually funneling and helping these terrorist organizations, put Pakistan in grey list. So our foreign policy with respect to these regional groupings, these arrangements is based on this challenge of terrorism. India being part of SCO, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, what India is saying by sitting on the table, oh, we need concerted policy towards terrorism. So fundamentalism, as it is spreading and especially after Taliban's rise, it is said that the fundamentalism may increase. If fundamentally increase, then it can create internal security issue for India as well. So we need concerted approach. Sharp regional rivalries are also there. For example, with China, for example, with Pakistan. These challenges are shaping our foreign policy. So now India has transitioned from this to this India. India which is vibrant, India which is diverse, India which is you can say resurgent. And this has been done. How this has been done and what is in sight, that we have to be more clearer what we need. Don't you think when you are more clearer in in this thing what you need, your actions will align, and your actions will align, you will have results. Similarly, many foreign policy experts say that India cannot sit in peace. India cannot be a reactionary power. Because reactionary power means if something is going to happen with us, then we are going to say, okay, this is what we are going to do. If there's attack on Taj, then we are saying, oh, we need NIA, let's make NIA, let's give more power to NIA. If we have instability in Northeast, then we are saying, oh, we need Operation Sunrise. We need to have close relation with Myanmar's army so that we can offset this threat in Northeast. So now is not the time to be reactionary. We need to be proactive. Devise the list. Make a list of all probable kind of threats and make a futuristic approach. When you strike these threats at the roots, that is the best way to have security and peace in your area. You need not to wait for enemy to get ground there, right? So we consistently we have seen, we have told this to the world that we are not just sitting in peace. We had our time, and on different times we have taken strong postures for our interest. For example, we were against colonialism during NAM, and we even did not join NPT because we considered this NPT is actually biased in favor of this permanent 5-member nation, that only they can do the nuclear test. We cannot do the neutral test if we sign on NPT, but we could not sign that considering the threat we have on our border. So it says that India is a strong power. India can actually have its own voice. And we have gathered support in G20, East Asia Summit, and through these, we are actually building our, you can say, clout in UNSC also, or General Assembly also. We have been consistently, you can say, making points that we need to reform United Nations Security Council, and many nations have been favoring us. We can say that India is a nation which is having pride. India is a nation which is having self-worth in mind. It has been clear in the past. Now, my friends, I need to tell you that your understanding in international relations can only be refined when you understand a neutral, you have a neutral analytical mind. You need to develop that. We cannot be divided by party lines. We cannot be divided because ultimately we are Indian, and our understanding on foreign policy should be what is in the interest of India. Although we need to categorize this just to understand how our foreign policy has shifted in recent past, what we have gained in past as well and what we are gaining in present as well. There may be gaps in past and there may be gaps in present. I hope you would agree to this. Now, in the present regime, we have seen that India, in many of its efforts, shown that we are more confident than we were earlier. It may be collaboration with Myanmar's army, it may be, if you talk about military aspect, you can say surgical strike, Balakote strike. So these are some examples that we are confident in countering any problem which may occur. We are going to engage if our interests are under threat. We are balance seeker, right? Global. We are risk taker in many conflicting situations. We are alert as well as flexible. We maintain sovereignty in decision-making actions. We preserve non-alignment, support the concept of no permanent friends and no enemies, because this is the ground rule. Because what is permanent is national interest. This can be observed. Although these points may be subjective. It means some scholars would say, no, India has not maintained sovereignty in decision making. Look what is happening in Galwan. How can actually China enter into Indian territory? But my friends, these areas used to be frontiers. And this conflict has been long going on. And yes, we can say that yes, this China is using salami slicing technique, where China has been claiming up our territory as disputed territory and then bandwagoning around the world that, oh, this is disputed territory, this is disputed territory, and so that world can actually agree, oh, this is disputed territory, and then bargaining with us, oh, give me this territory and I'll forego with this territory. And why would we forego our territory? This was not a disputed territory in first place. So yes, in this context, points can be raised, but these are the broad points. As Modiji has said that now in India-US relations, we are going ahead. We are actually coming ahead. We are overcoming the historical hesitancy. Well, the hesitancy or hesitation which he is talking about the hesitations of Cold War era, where we were inclined towards USSR, then Russia, and not USA. Japan and India, over the decades, more engagement has been seen, especially Modi and Abe, Shinzo Abe's closeness and the pacts during that time. Now, foreign policy under Congress. Again, we are talking about what we have achieved in the past, and there may be some gaps as well. Trusting and making long-term friends, for example, Russia. And this friend, the relationship which was forged during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru was actually gave us fruit when we had this liberation war of Bangladesh. When USA was supporting Pakistan, who came to help us? Russia came to help us. And when were our relationships bloomed with Russia? It was during the earlier time, right? And it is not like India was having, on back foot during the whole Congress time. We have seen that decision to liberate Bangladesh itself showed the confidence India had in itself, right? So liberal and secure by nature, accommodating and keeping low key, because we were not having that much geopolitical presence at that point of time. Compromising and not very vibrant at that point of time, upholding liberal democratic principles, focus more on economic development than defense sector, because that was the priority of that time. Now, what are the major issues which are making world powers to come together? You can say terrorism is one, Terrorism is a global problem. It's not a problem of one nation. So that's why concerted efforts are needed. You can take into consideration climate change affecting all, conservation, biodiversity, exploring these, you can say, unexplored seabed, fair global trading system, as well as space area also, space exploration. So it means there are these major issues on which we need to forge our foreign policy in a manner which is for betterment of us as well as for all. This is what India's foreign policy principle says. There's a need for international cooperation in space, as I told you, cyberspace, extraterrestrial bodies as well. We can say that we need to spend more on our, you can say, on our forging our relations. We need to be more versatile, right? We need a degree of mutual trust. We need economic interdependence. So why we need economic interdependence? Because economic interdependence helps in resolving conflicts as well. The nations who are more interdependent economically, do you think it would be easier for them to go on war? What is going to happen with those traders? What is going to happen with those people who are dependent on the products which are imported from other nation? Right? That is why economic interdependence is a way to ensure peace. Right? So India needs resources to do that. Attention, as I told you, imagination also. Right? Now, what are the challenges we are facing in India's foreign policy? You can say primary is challenge by China. As you can see, recently Mr. Imran Khan visited Xi Jinping and he has signed second phase of China-Pakistan economic corridor. Passing through Pak-occupied Kashmir, it means another attempt over sovereignty of India. Right? So apart from this OBOR, where China is making inroads into Europe, it is going to dent the aspirations of India if China is our adversary. So that's a challenge we are having. Then we have challenge in our South Asian region, that intra-trade in South Asian region is way less than other regions across the world. So we need to increase this trade and cooperation. Then we have Afghan issue. Earlier we have invested a lot of capital, a lot of time in Afghan democratic process, and we have invested in Chabhar so that we can use this trade route of Afghanistan and tap into the potential of Turkmenistan and Central Asia natural gas and the market. But due to this Afghanistan issue, now that's a challenge, how future is going to be there, right? How we are going to ensure what we have invested, we can actually have this geo-economic interest fulfilled. Lack of mutual trust among nations, this is another challenge. Shift in balance of power. Now, on this point, I would like to quote our Foreign Affairs Minister, Mr. S. Jaishankar. He says, we need to cultivate our relationship with USA. We need to cultivate our relationship with USA. Because in these threats, in these challenges, cultivating relationship with USA is going to help us. So cultivating relationship with USA, reassuring Russia, because Russia has been a traditional ally. And now Russia has also actually making closeness with Pakistan. Russia is exporting weapons to Pakistan. Russia is also not very comfortable with our closeness with USA. So what we need to do? We need to reassure Russia that we are traditional friends. Don't worry. It is just some interests need to be fulfilled, and that is why we are aligning with USA. And we need to balance China. We need to balance China. Because China is expansionary force, and we cannot actually cut off China due to the economic necessity, due to this border issue, due to China's importance for us as well, right? So CRB for US, Russia, China, you can remember this phrase. I hope this discussion help you have a ground understanding of this major issue, which is like foundation to build a strong building on international relations in upcoming videos. Let me know how this discussion helped you, and I'm very much excited to bring more discussion on international relations with you, to have these discussions with you in upcoming videos. For having these PPTs, you can connect with Shashank Tyagi for you. It's a Telegram group, and you can drop me a message on Instagram or Twitter if I could be of any help. So see you in the next video then. Till then, keep learning, keep growing. Shashank Tyagi signing off.